Hi everyone, Jacob and Riley from concealedcarry.com, and we have an interesting little project today.
Yes, we do. We are looking at body armor panels. Specifically, many of these have been designed for inserting into backpacks. I believe this one and this one and this one particularly are designed for that purpose. Sometimes these might be inserted for a back panel in like a plate carrier or a body armor carrier. These are obviously cut for the front. And then we were unable to get a full-size piece of the AR500 Armor brand one. This is a side panel, but we'll still be able to test it. So yes, we are looking at body armor. Specifically, my kids are going back to school this week.
Yeah, my kids start in 3 days from now.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm thinking, you know, if I was going to choose one of these to put in a backpack that might potentially, you know, save a child's life, you know, obviously the likelihood of them ending up in a school shooting is pretty slim, but still, if I was going to do this, which one of these would I choose?
Yeah, and that's really what it comes down to. And this is the year I'm doing it. I'm going to go buy some of these. I want to put them in both my kids' backpacks. I keep one of these in my backpack. Yep. And so it comes down to, okay, well, if I'm going to buy a bunch of these now, which one am I going to buy?
I'm just going to take whichever, you know, ones are the least deformed after we're done today, and I'm going to throw them in the backpacks.
No, he's not. So what are the things we're looking for? Let's start there. So the first thing I'll tell you, just having looked online, all of these are NIJ tested and certified for at level 3A. Let's talk about 3A. What does that mean, Riley?
Basically, these are all certified to stop up to 44 Magnum at like 1,400 something feet per second.
Yep, all the handgun rounds, including an up to 44 Magnum. And so we're going to test them with a variety of things today. So they all claim to stop the same stuff. So, you know, if you were looking online, you were shopping, you would look at that and say, well, these all say they're the same. So you might just be stuck deciding on price. And definitely they vary in price. Some of these retail as low as about $90 if you're looking at comparable sizes, and some of these as much as $200. So there's definitely a difference there. But not all things are not necessarily the same. If they just all say that they're 3A certified and that they're all, you know, X price, there are other things we want to look at and measure here, and that's why we're doing that. So Riley, what are the things you're going to be looking for today?
I'm definitely going to be looking at cost, because I've got 3 kids going to school this year, and soon it'll be 4.
Yes.
So cost is a big one for me. But other things we'll be looking at are things like, obviously, performance. We want to make sure that these perform as advertised. Now, unfortunately, we didn't have a 44 mag available today to test these with, but we will be testing these with up to a 357 Magnum out of an 18-inch rifled barrel. And I think that'll be a pretty good test. If they can stop that, that's actually really impressive, and probably is actually in excess of what the NIJ 3A standard is. So we'll be testing up to that point. We'll also be testing them with 223, which we don't expect these to stop 223, especially out of a full-size, you know, 16-inch AR-15 barrel. But we are going to test them with a 7-inch AR pistol just to see. We've measured that, and we get about 2,200 feet per second with a 62-grain bullet out of a 7-inch AR pistol. So we'll see if 2,200 feet per second, if that could be stopped. I don't know. I think it's interesting to consider.
If one does and the other one doesn't, then it matters.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so
it matters.
So that's, you know, we're just going to look and see if there's any differences in performance between these. Now, that might not necessarily be scientific, but it'll be interesting, and it might be kind of in the back of your mind as you're considering what to buy in the future anyway.
Let's talk about deformation, Riley.
Yes.
What is that? You know, let's talk. What is that, and why does it matter to us?
Backface deformation is a standard where and we're not going to be concerned about the specific standard or criteria that the NIJ uses, but we're going to be measuring backface deformation between these and just looking at, you know, which ones deform the least, because that'll definitely be something that we'll consider as well.
Yeah, if this is sitting on my body and it takes a shot, it may stop it. The bullet may not penetrate all the way through, but how much energy is going to transfer through? How much is this going to come into my body? How much is it going to cause? Because the NIJ standard allows for a certain amount of backface deformation. Yeah. So that said, you know, all of these we know have supposedly passed the test, but if one has significantly less backface deformation than the other, that
means
also matters.
Less blunt force trauma.
That's right.
On your chest or back or whatever. So that's a big deal.
It matters.
Because getting shot, even with wearing body armor, yeah, you might not die from, you know, being penetrated by a bullet, but you could, in theory, cause enough blunt force trauma to your chest that you could stop your heart or cause other issues. So
yeah, we're going to test that.
Consideration.
For me, a big one, and this becomes really apparent when we look at these right now, are just kind of, I'll call some of the cosmetic things. How much does it weigh? How thick is it? Because how much space is it going to take up in my kid's backpack? How much is it going to weigh down on them? And how malleable is it? Is it really stiff, or is it super malleable and it's going to be very comfortable in a bag?
And we have some interesting comparisons here because we've got this AR500 armor product, which is very malleable.
Super.
It's like witchcraft, because this is body armor. It doesn't feel like it should be body armor.
No, it doesn't.
So we'll see how that performs. But on the flip side, we have this very rigid panel from Manpack.
So summarizing, we're looking for, does it stop what it's supposed to stop? Does it stop things above and beyond that it's not necessarily ready to stop? How much back face deformation are we getting? How thin is it? How light is it? And how much does it cost?
Yeah.
So let's introduce the players here, and then we can get into the game.
Yep.
So let's start here just because it's closest to me. So this is from Safe Life Defense. These guys do a lot of business with law enforcement, LEO stuff, and they do a lot of different body armor.
They do a lot of marketing too online.
They do. They're based out of Las Vegas. Pretty malleable, feeling pretty good. Not the thinnest thing here.
Let's say this is towards the thicker side of the 6 products, but kind of medium thickness.
Yeah, medium thickness. And later we'll do a cost thing here on screen. We'll show you all the costs. We'll put it on the webpage.
We'll put the calipers on too and measure these.
Yeah, and it's worth. I'll just quickly disclaim too that we couldn't get exact sizes. In other words, some of these are 10 by 12, some of these are 10 by 14, some of these are 11 by 14. Some of these are kind of trimmed, as you mentioned, to kind of be designed for the front of a plate carrier. And this one, frankly, to get the size that was comparable to the others just was so expensive that was too cheap. So I bought the really small one.
Yeah, well, a lot of these we purchased ourselves.
Yeah, we purchased all of these ourselves, I think, except for maybe Manpack.
I think that one was given to us.
He's a good dude. So AR500 is the other one. You already mentioned AR500. So these guys have 2 different lines of soft body armor. This is the Reimlig line, which is kind of the slightly lower end line. It's the 3A protection, awesome line. This is Citizen Armor. We know the guys from Citizen Armor and Disclosure, so we told them we're going to take this out and do a little testing, and they said go for it. So we'll see how it performs. Of these, similar to the AR500, I'd say these 2 are our skinniest ones, the thinnest.
Yeah, totally.
They're just super amazingly thin. We know that these guys use some carbon fiber fanciness technology, something. Yeah, so that's very skinny. Take us up from the front.
Yeah, this is Vism, which is actually an NC Star product, and so this is, I think, a little bit more affordable compared to some of the other products potentially. This one's unique because it feels like it has kind of a harder plate on the front surface.
To me, it feels almost like a piece of cardboard.
Padding on the, yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
And it has some padding on the back, so that's kind of cool. I don't know if that's going to make a difference in the back face deformation or not. But anyway, so that's Vism from NC Star. This is from Manpack, manpack.com. And we were introduced to this, I think, last year at the NRA Carry Guard show. And just kind of an interesting product. It's almost, it feels like a whiteboard or something.
Well, I think that he has a version of this you can buy that has a clipboard thing on it.
Yeah,
so you could carry this professionally, and it could be your clipboard and your, I don't know,
door-to-door sales,
stopping bullets with it or something.
And then up front here we have, this is from Bullet Safe, another company that does quite a bit of marketing, very aggressive in that regard. Also typically very affordable. They have some of the lower priced products on the market, but this is also kind of when you look at all 6 of these products, this one feels the most crude. A little bit, you could tell it just seems like it's kind of thrown together. And it's also thicker than everything else well, it's closer to this one, but
it's closer,
but it's definitely
the
thicker
thickest
than all the other products. So
yeah, if we had to shop right now, Riley, based purely on what we know without shooting it. Yeah. Right, and I'm talking about that would be how thick it is, how light it is, and how malleable it is. What would you buy? Give us some. So this might be my top.
It depends on what we're looking at, right? As far as if I'm buying for body armor that I'm going to wear in a carrier, or if we are actually sticking with this
we're
backpack
putting it in the backpack.
paradigm.
Yeah, we're buying
backpack
for our kids here.
For the kids, I don't know how important malleableness is, because chances are they're putting some books and things in there anyway.
It's important between this and the others. Beyond that, I don't know that it matters.
Sure, right.
In terms of just comfort.
Yeah.
Right?
But honestly, knowing what I know about some of these companies and how some of these perform, I'd probably end up somewhere on this back row here. I'm familiar with these 3 products pretty well, and I mean, this one's really tempting because of how thin, light, and also, yes, if you're interested in it being malleable, this one is super, super malleable. This one is probably also a pretty decent product, but it is the thickest and probably the heavier
I weighed these actually previously, and even though this is much thinner, it's only about 0.4 ounces lighter than this guy.
But it is still lighter.
They're pretty close.
This one I know, I mean, I definitely would be interested in this one. Like I said, I think right now it's too hard for me to tell for sure exactly which one I end up with, but it would definitely be one of these 3 products, just knowing what I know as of right now.
Knowing what I know about the price, this one would be the one that tempts me the most, because it's a little bit thinner than the Bullet Safe, but it's a little bit cheaper than almost all these. I think it's the least expensive option here. Right. But yeah, being as skinny as this one is, it definitely would have called my attention right away. And now having seen this come in the mail and holding it, it's pretty tempting too. It really makes me wonder. So we're going to see how these things line up across all this testing that we're going to do, and these specific considerations and factors that we're looking for.
Now let me describe to you how we're going to test these. We have some clay. It's a soft, it's a water-based clay. It's not meant to be calibrated for any particular performance standard or anything, just simply that it's going to give us a measurement of deformation that we can compare from panel to panel to panel, and we'll look at which ones deform the least based on that testing medium. So just some blocks of clay that will be set up. We'll put these on the front of them, we'll shoot, we'll see, we'll measure that deformation. We're going to shoot at these 9mm out of a standard pistol. Basically, actually it's the P320 is what we used for calibration as far as testing velocities over the chronograph. I believe that's like a 3.8-inch barrel, somewhere on there.
Close to 4.
And we're seeing with 115 grain loads about 1,100 feet per second. Pretty typical 115 grain 9mm load. Okay. We are going to then move up. We're going to test 9mm plus P. We're going to test 45, 45 plus P. We're going to test 357, and we're going to test 357, some pretty heavy and hot loads out of a 18-inch barrel. So that'll be probably, we'll see if any of these fail with any of those calibers. And then assuming that we're still going, we'll test the 223 out of a 7-inch AR pistol. And if that holds up, which would be pretty cool if it did, we'll see. I'll be surprised if any of these are able to stop a 223 at 2,200 feet per second. We'll see how that goes. Then we'll go ahead and shoot, a full 16-inch AR at them, which I'm confident none of these are supposed to be able to touch. I've never seen soft body armor, and granted this one's not soft, but it's still kind of in the same category. I've never seen any of these stop that.
That's almost 3,000.
It's just for fun, right?
Yeah.
And plus we're here to shoot today, so we'll have some fun with it.
One that I want to make sure that we recognize, because you guys will see this on the camera, is we did bring the Kel-Tec Sub 2000.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, which is really important, because obviously the longer the barrel, the higher the velocity we get out of the same ammunition. So we're going to be shooting 9mm out of there, but we have a much longer barrel, higher velocities. Yeah. And so it'll be. And
actually, the velocities we're seeing out of the Kel-Tec Sub 2000 16-inch barrel are very similar to some of the 357 loads out of the 18-inch rifle. So.
Yeah, we're basically at a quick 200 to 300 feet per second.
The one thing is that the 357 loads are a heavier bullet, so we'll see if that has any effect or not.
Game on, Riley.
Yep, let's do it.
penetrated all the way. Everyone, Jake and Riley, we're back. We've done a lot of shooting here. We've been through some ammo. We've been through quite a bit of body armor-esque stuff here. Riley, give us the quick rundown on the order we did things, guns, ammo, etc.
Yeah. All right, so each piece of body armor that we shot went in this order. We started with the SIG P320. This is the compact model, I believe, or is it the carry? This is the carry, 17 round. So we started with this. We started with a standard 115 grain. This is your typical federal brass cased ammo that you buy in bulk at Walmart. Nothing had any issue, obviously, with penetration with that. We moved up from there to a 115 grain plus P load from Grizzly, big bore ammunition. Pretty hot load out of a less than 4-inch barrel. Once again, that went pretty well for most of the body panels. We went to the 45, shot a standard 230 grain. This is blazer brass that we were using. This 5-inch 1911. Don't knock on me, guys. This is a Taurus. It's my play gun. I don't care if it's a Taurus. It shoots fine. And we also shot 185 grain plus P loads with it. That is a hot load. I was really impressed.
You were feeling it.
Oh, it definitely recoils pretty substantially. So that was a pretty good test for a lot of these. That's 185 grain at like 1,300 feet per second at 45. That's hot.
And everything stopped that round.
Yeah, that's true. And then from there we went to the Kel-Tec here, sub 2000 9mm. And with that, we just shot the standard 115 grain pressure load.
Yeah, it adds a couple hundred feet per second.
Yeah, it's like 1,500 or so out of this gun. Pretty hot. And that was a pretty interesting test. You know, we definitely saw a lot of deformation, especially in the body armor panels themselves from that combination. And then we went to the, I don't have it on the table here, but we had a lever action 357. And out of that, we shot these Fiocchi 142 grain. These are a truncated nose FMJ load. They move along pretty good. Out of that 18-inch barrel lever action, like 1,700 feet per second or something.
It's pretty sick,
or 16, I don't remember exactly. Pretty hot load. Moving along, and it's got a nice sharp profile for a load like that. Just hoping that we might get some penetration. We'll talk about one of them that did not handle it as well as the others. And finally, we finished it up with these are HSM bear loads, 180 grain hard cast lead bullets. They move along pretty well as well, 1550 out of that lever action rifle. So that's what we did. We shot each of these. We tried to space those out as best we could. Realized that, yeah, I mean, most of these should be able to handle multiple hits.
In theory.
But obviously, every time we hit it, we are separating layers. We are, they're not going to perform as ideally as if it was a brand new piece of armor. So why don't you talk about some of what we saw here?
Yeah, I like that. I'm glad you disclaimed that because, yeah, in an ideal world, we would have bought 9 of these and shot each of them once dead center with different rounds, but it's really cost prohibitive to do a test like that for us. So instead, we're just trying to space out our shots, etc. So the first thing, let's talk about the AR500. We started there. Now this plate we have from AR500 is meant to be a side panel plate. It was the most, I'd call it malleable of all the options we started with.
It's also pretty thin.
Very thin,
yep.
But it didn't perform super well.
Yeah, we shot this twice.
3 times.
Yeah, oh, you're right.
3.
Yep. So we shot, this was the standard 115 grain, then we shot with the plus P, and that just blew this out pretty substantially. And we realized that this just was, it was stopping the bullets, but we were getting some substantial deformation. And then we went ahead and jumped right up to the 357, and it just, once again, it just really blew it apart. At that point, we decided to stop testing on this because it just was no point in continuing to shoot at this little piece. So
In fact, for a while there, because this was the first one we started with, we were kind of like, whoa, wait a minute. Because are we going to see this across the board? But it wasn't the case.
Yeah. Now, I would have to say at this point, we got to throw this one out of this comparison. I don't think this is
not the same
fair.
size. If we had bought the same size as the others, then it might have been a little bit fair. But I'll also add, this is the only one. This is a very unique kind of material. Nothing else had this kind of material. It's different than all the other options we tested. A little bit.
So yellow fiber. But the other ones are white. But it definitely was like shredding it and delaminating things just from a couple of shots. I think I'd like to test AR500 Armor more with a proper, larger size panel.
And they have the two different. They have the two different lines of soft panel. This was the
Rimelig.
Rimelig, that's what it was. And they have another one that starts with an H or something.
Or Rimelig.
This was the R, Rimelig, something like that. Now I will add though that the reason we have such a small one here is because compared to these others, this was the most expensive brand out there. And so I bought this because it's about the same price as the full size ones of the other brands. So did we do it justice in terms of testing it? Maybe not.
Yeah.
But if you had a limited budget, this is what you'd get for the same price as the rest of these.
Don't take what we saw here and say, make any decisions based on the performance of this based, on what we did today. It's just not a fair comparison.
Fair enough.
So we were hoping that we could get some data from that. I just don't feel like we got anything useful.
So next was this guy. Now this is the Safe Life product.
Yep.
And interesting construction here, because what we found very quickly is it kind of has this kind of white foam on the front, and then it has these layers of like a Kevlar type material. And then it had kind of these two solid pieces in the back, this thick,
it's plastic,
white plastic with a little kind of green coating on it.
Yep.
And then another piece of foam on the back to kind of make it softer against the body. This is the only one of all these that kind of has this kind of solid piece of plastic.
Yep.
And I would say
it's a unique construction for sure.
It is a little unique. I would say this is probably one of the better performing ones that we tested today. I would certainly feel comfortable putting this in my kid's backpack, though it is considerably thicker than some of the other options we tested.
Yeah, it was less thick than the Bullet Safe one. Let's go ahead and talk about that one now. This is not the order we went in, but let's go ahead and jump to this. And this was the largest panel. It gave us lots of area to shoot, and you can see it's just a very common, and it's fairly thick, by the way. This has lots of layers of ballistic material. I think it's probably got more layers than anything else. We had no problems with anything penetrating. We did get a pretty good amount of deflection and deformation of the material itself. Performance-wise, we'll have to go back and look at the numbers. We honestly don't remember what all. We just got done shooting all this, so we were measuring deformation in the clay. Speaking of clay, we got this with the idea that this would be a fairly good medium to test. I'm not sure if this was a little softer than what we were expecting or what, but we did get considerable deformation from the clay, probably more than what I was expecting. Still, we're looking at it. We're just comparing between these, and
as far as a relative comparison, I think it's still pretty good to compare. But
we're not trying to be super scientific. It's just kind of like, let's get a feel. I mean, these are all 3A rated. That means they've passed some pretty substantial NIJ testing.
Our objective is to not show how much deformation there is. Our objective is to show which one has more deformation than the other.
Sure.
And so to that end, I think we did pretty well.
Yep.
Both of these were fairly similar in thickness. The Bullet Safe's a little thicker.
A little more than ½ inch.
A little thicker.
This was like 0.38 or 0.4, somewhere on there.
But their construction is comparable minus this plastic piece.
Yep.
And I would say that did allow this to perform a little bit better.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's the Bullet Safe and the Safe Life.
This one was interesting.
This poor guy here.
So the NC Star branded Vism product, I would say was our least favorite in terms of performance, especially where we get into deformation.
Construction is very similar to the Bullet Safe line in the foam and just a bunch of this material, but it's not as thick. It's thinner. Yep. And perhaps that being a little thinner caused the less ideal performance.
There's very little. It's just a typical. It's just layered ballistic material. That's all it is. There's nothing special going on here. I'd say fairly inexpensively constructed, but it's also, I think, the least expensive product. Now, did it stop everything we shot at it? Yes. Yep. But I will say that when we shot this with the 357, especially that 180 grain load, oh my goodness! I mean, it about turned this thing inside out. It was it stopped the bullet, but it probably push the back of this. It was a lot.
It was wild.
It was substantial.
It was.
It was impressive to see.
Did it stop the rounds? Yes. But given the choice between these others, would I pay 20, 30, 40, 50 bucks more for the other options? I would.
Yep.
But there you have it.
Yep. What's
All
next?
Right. So we can go to Manpack or Citizen Armor.
Well, let's talk Citizen Armor. Save the weird one for, because that's the way we think of the Manpack. Is it's a little bit
it's different to the others,
for sure, right?
So this one was really interesting. In fact,
and we cut into this already, and I may open some of these others. But
this material was completely closed. But what was really weird here is that if it hadn't been for the clay, if we had simply just been shooting something, pulling it up, and saying, how much deformation there was, we would have thought this thing was flawless.
We didn't really cut the back of this open, right?
No, these are all.
See how these are all split open. I mean, there's a couple of these maybe I cut a little bit on just to get a slug out, but this is how the Citizen Armor came out of the test. That is kind of impressive, actually. Deformation from all the rest of these was enough to just literally shred and tear apart the backs of the body armor panels, and this one honestly is held together the best.
Yeah, we had to peel it apart with a knife in order to really get a sense for what was going on in here. Now the construction of this one's different, and that's why Citizen Armor is, that's kind of their claim to fame, is that they are using something different. They talk a lot about carbon fiber nanotubes, and so when we pulled this guy apart, the first thing we noticed is this piece of material, which is on the back.
That's actually on the front. That's the front.
On the front. Excuse me. Correct.
The
facing,
strike face.
The strike face.
Mm-hmm.
So here you see most of the holes, but we do have one round here that was kind of stopped right in here. It was stopped obviously by this material, but it's still here, and we can see it, and it's kind of fused with the material.
Fused, yeah.
We can't get it out now.
Yeah.
But this is a layer of kind of a carbon fiber material, which is what they purport to use.
Yep.
And then we run into a layer of this ballistic
very
material,
similar ballistic material to everything else.
Yep. But
and there's, we didn't really count all these layers, but there's a number of layers. Then we get to it's like 3 layers of this stuff again.
Yeah, right in the middle. So you kind of get this, one of these, bunch of this, 3 layers of this, more ballistic material, and then another 5 or 6
layers on the
of
back.
the carbon fiber. So this carbon fiber is kind of spliced middle, back, front around this other material, and nothing penetrated this middle layer of carbon fiber.
Yeah, yeah. Absolutely.
That's where all the rounds start. That's where we found all of them.
You can even look inside here, and I know the only round that seemed to do any sort of
even damage
to this middle carbon fiber layer was, I think, actually this one here.
Yeah.
I think, is that in that right spot?
Yeah.
Nope, not quite.
Maybe it's a different one.
It is a different one.
It must be
so
the
there
lead.
was there was a slug that went a little bit deeper, didn't penetrate. Most of the other rounds, there is not even a mark or anything on this middle carbon fiber layer. That was pretty impressive to me.
And to put this in context, we measured all these, and this one is the skinniest.
Yep.
I think it was.
It was.
And so
next to Manpack, and that's a totally different
game. But considering how skinny it was, how thin perhaps, I was really not sure what to expect. But now understanding the construction and how this is put together, I kind of get it.
Yeah,
I kind of get it. Now that doesn't mean that there wasn't any deformation when we talk about the back here and we say, this is what you see is what you get. That's true, but again, because of the clay, we could see how it really was deforming and then just kind of snapping back into shape.
Yeah, it was an interesting product for sure. Very, very honestly impressive performance for being the thinnest material out of all the soft armor. So let's go to this hard armor piece, and this is from Manpack. And initially, this was very promising. Now, these are supposedly all 3A rated, meaning they should be able to all handle 44 Magnum at like 1,400 feet per second. So that's a pretty heavy bullet moving along pretty quickly. So we didn't test with the 44 mag today as a comparable of sorts, and actually to kind of push the limits a little bit. That's why we shot all of these with a 357 out of a rifle, getting 15 and 1,600 feet per second, thinking that'd be a really good test. These all passed as far as keeping those bullets from actually going through the material. Initially, starting out, we saw very little of anything. The deformation was very slight initially, right?
Yeah, it wasn't doing much at all.
I mean, just kind of
unprecedented.
Yeah, it was just kind of unobtrusive, just like, oh, okay, wow, that was not, anticlimactic. Then we shot it with the first 357 load, and it blew right through. I think that was this one.
Yeah, that was the first one.
Yeah, right here.
Yeah, just clean through.
That was the 142 grain, this Fiocchi load. It moves along pretty good, and it just blew right through. And then we shot it with the 180, which is a hard cast lead bullet. So it's not even jacketed. There's not that extra support of that jacket around that lead. It's just a lead bullet, and it just also just hammered right through.
Complete
And
penetration.
you do see we have a third hole here, which is from a 5.56 or 223. We shot everything with that. It was the AR pistol, 2,200 feet per second. We thought, hey, you know, maybe.
That'd be cool if anything did stop it.
It just blew right through everything.
Yep,
so
nothing could stop it.
Not really surprised. I didn't expect it to work, but I had never shot body armor with a lower powered AR like that before. So anyway, this one, and, you know, it'd be interesting if we shot this with a 44 mag. I suppose maybe that would probably be stopped. I don't know, but this was the only body armor panel out of everything we tested here today that did fail as far as allowing penetration to occur.
Yeah, yeah. So, you know, when it's all said and done, and again, I feel like in order to make a complete, conclusive summary, and I think when we publish this video, we can do that, you know, written either below the video or after this video is over or something like that. But arbitrarily, without having gone back and reviewed all the footage, all the measurements of the deformation, where are you at, Riley? If today you had to pick one of these to go throw in all the kids' backpacks, what would you feel most comfortable with?
It would come down to, you know, I'll say I would have probably seriously considered the Manpack product until I saw those 357 loads went through. What that tells me, 357 bullet is the same caliber as a 9mm. So you get a 9mm going fast enough, and it's, you know, it's capable of defeating this armor, actually just going through, penetrating it, right? So because of that, I almost kind of had to throw this out. All right. It would come down to the Safe Life and the Citizen Armor, and I'd have to say due to pricing, due to thickness and weight, I'd have to give it to Citizen Armor.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same place. I definitely want to go back because I think that looking at the actual measurements of deformation between Safe Life and Citizen Armor, I want to go back and look at those.
Sure.
But arbitrarily, you know, I think that they're kind of comparable in deformation. But this guy being lighter, thinner, and you know, in my opinion, more economic, I think I'd be inclined to go with this.
Yeah.
So we'll do a little bit more research. We'll look at all the numbers. We'll come back. We maybe give you some final ideas there once we've reviewed all the footage and the measurements. But today, based on this, I think you could shop these products. You could check out the prices for yourself. There might be some other products that we missed. They know that they're comparable competitors. But my sense is that the reason Citizen Armor performs so well is because the construction is substantially different. And that's what made it work really well, despite being much thinner and lighter of a product. All right.
Other than that, we had a great time, you know, making an absolute disaster of some clay. This was usually the result after we shot it with the 223, but this one was actually from those 357 loads hammering through that Manpack.
Yeah.
And it left some really impressive damage behind. So
we went through a decent amount of clay.
we did, and we had a great time.
So with that, check out these products. We appreciate these brands, and we carry a lot of these on our online store for sale. Not all of these. I think that's something we would work toward in the future, but we will put links to all of them so that you can shop all of them accordingly here below the video. Thanks everyone from concealedcarry.com.